It was a never-ending line of sharp, crisscrossed wooden spikes. Only what was different was, the fence was completely covered in bits and pieces of dead, rotting animals. There were skulls, monkey skulls, animal guts or intestines, infested with what seemed like hundreds of flies buzzing around, and the smell was like nothing I'd ever smelt before. All of us were in shock. We didn't know what this thing was. Even though I recognized it, I didn't even know what it was. And while Angela and the others argued over what this was, I stopped and stared at what was scaring me the most. It was the other side. On the other side of the spikes was just more vegetation, but right behind it you couldn't see anything. It was darkness, like the entrance of a huge tropical cave. And right as Moses and Angela started to get into a screaming match, we all turned to notice something behind us. Standing behind us, maybe 15 meters away, staring at us, was a group of 5 men. They were wearing these dirty, ragged clothes, like they'd had them for years, and they were small in height. In fact, they were very small, almost like children. But they were all carrying weapons, bows and arrows, spears, machetes. Whoever these men were, they were clearly dangerous. There was an awkward pause at first, but then Moses shouts, "Hello," at them. He takes Angela's spear with the fish and starts slowly walking towards them. We all tell him to stop, but he doesn't listen. One of the men starts approaching Moses. He looked like their leader. There's only like 5 meters between them when Moses starts speaking to the men, telling them we're Americans and we don't mean them any harm. He then offered Angela's fish to them, like an offering of some sort. The way Moses went about this was very patronizing. He spoke slowly to the man, as he probably didn't know any English. But he was wrong. In broken English, the man said, "You American?" Moses then says loudly that we're African American, like he forgot me and Angela were there. He offers again the fish to the man and says, "Here, we offer this to you." The man looks at the fish, almost insulted, but then he looks around past Moses and straight at me. The man stares at me for a good long time, and even though I was afraid, I just stare right back at him. I thought that maybe he'd never seen a white man before, but something tells me it was something else. The man continues to stare at me with wide eyes, and then he shouts, "Our fish! You take our fish!" Frightened by this, we all start taking steps backwards, closer to the fence, and all Moses can do is stare back at us. The man then takes out his machete and points it towards the fence behind us. He yells, "No safe here. You go home. Go back America." The men behind him also began shouting at us, waving their weapons in the air, almost ready to fight us. We couldn't understand the language they were shouting at us in, but there was a word I still remember. They were shouting at us, "Asili, Asili, Asili," over and over. Moses, the idiot he was, he then approached the man, trying to reason with him. The man then raises his machete up to Moses, threatening him with it. Moses throws up his hands for the man not to hurt him, and then he slowly makes his way back to us, without turning his back to the men. As soon as Moses reaches us, we head back in the direction we came, back to the stream and the commune. But the men continue shouting and waving their weapons at us, and as soon as we lose sight of them, we run. When we get back to the commune, we tell the others what had just happened, as well as what we saw. Like we thought they would, they freaked the fuck out. We all speculated on what the fence was. Angela said that it was probably a hunting ground that belonged to those men, which they barricaded and made look menacing to scare people off. This theory made the most sense, but what I didn't understand was, how the hell had I dreamt of it? How the hell had I dreamt of a fence before I even knew it existed? I didn't tell the others this because I was scared of what they might think, but when it was time to vote on whether we stayed or went back home, I didn't waste a second in raising my hand in favor of going, and it was the same for everyone else. The only one who didn't raise their hand was Moses. He wanted to stay. This entire idea of starting a commune in the rainforest, it was his. It clearly meant a lot to him, even at the cost of his life. His mind was more than made up on staying, even after having his life threatened, and he made it clear to the group that we were all staying where we were. We all argued with him, told him he was crazy, and things were quickly getting out of hand. But that's when Angela took control. Once everyone had shut the hell up, she then berated all of us. She said that none of us were prepared to come here, and that we had no idea what we were doing. She was right. We didn't. She then said that all of us were going back home, no questions asked, like she was giving us an order, and if Moses wanted to stay, he could, but he would more than likely die alone. Moses said he was willing to die here, to be a martyr to the cause or some crap like that. But by the time it got dark, we all agreed that in the morning we were going back down the river and back to Kinshasa. Despite being completely freaked out that day, I did manage to get some sleep. I knew we had a long journey back ahead of us, and even though I was scared of what I might dream, I slept anyways. And there I was, back at the fence. I moved through it, through to the other side. Darkness and identical trees all around, and again, I see the light. And again, I am back inside of the circle, with the huge black rotting tree standing over me. But what's different was, the face wasn't there. It was just the tree. But I could hear breathing coming from it. Soft but painful breathing like someone was suffocating. Remembering the hands, I look around me, but nothing is there. It's just the circle. I look back to the tree, and above me, high on the tree, I see a man. He was small, like a child, and he was breathing very soft but painful breaths. His head was down, and I couldn't see his face. But what disturbed me was the rest of him. This man, this childlike man against the tree, he'd been crucified to it. He was stretched out around the tree. It almost looked like it was giving birth to him. All I can do is look up to him, terrified, unable to wake myself up. But then the man looks down at me. Very slowly, he looks down at me and I can make out his features. His face is all covered in scars, tribal scars, waves, dots, spirals. His cheeks are very sunken in, and he almost doesn't look human. He opens his eyes with a little strength, and he says to me, or more whispers, "Henry." He knew my name. And that's when I wake back up in my tent. I'm all covered in sweat and panicked to hell. The rain outside was so loud my ears were ringing from it. I tried to calm down so I didn't wake Nadja beside me, but over the sound of the rain and my own panicked breathing, I start to hear a noise. A zip. A very slow zipping sound, like someone was trying carefully to break into the tent. I look to the entrance zip door to see if anyone's trying to enter, but it's too dark to see anything. It didn't matter anyway, because I realized the zipping sound was coming from behind me, and what I first thought was zipping was actually cutting. Someone was cutting their way through mine and Nadja's tent. Every night that we were there, I slept with a pocket knife inside my sleeping bag. I reached around to find it so I can protect myself from whoever's entering. Trying not to make a sound, I think I find it. I better adjust it in my hand when I feel a blunt force hit me in the back of the head. Not that I could see anything anyway, but everything suddenly went black. When I finally regain consciousness, everything around me is still dark. My head hurts like hell and I feel like vomiting. But what was strange was that I could barely feel anything under me, as though I was floating. That's when I realized I was being carried, and the darkness around me was coming from whatever was over my head, an old sack or something. I tried moving my arms and legs, but I couldn't. They were tied. I tried calling out for help, but I couldn't do that either. My mouth was gagged. I continued to be carried for a good long while, before I suddenly feel myself fall. I hit the ground very hard, which made my head even worse. I then feel someone come behind me, pulling me up on my knees. I can hear some unknown language being spoken around me and what sounded like people crying. I start to hyperventilate, and I fear I might suffocate inside whatever this thing was over my head. That's when a blinding bright light comes over me, hurts my brain and my eyes, and I realize the sack over me has been taken off. I try painfully to readjust my eyes so that I can see where I am. And when I do, a small childlike man is standing over me. The same man from the day before. The one who Moses tried giving the fish to. The only difference now was he was painted all over in some kind of grey paste. I then see beside him are even more of the smaller men, also covered in grey paste. The rain was still pouring down, and the wet paste on their skin made them look almost like melting skeletons. I then hear the crying again. I look to either side of me and I see all the other commune members, Moses, Jerome, Beth, Ty, Chantel, Angela, and Nadja, all on their knees, gagged with their hands tied behind their back. The short grey men standing over us then move away behind us, and we realize where it is they've taken us. They've taken us back to the fence. I can hear the muffled screams of everyone else as they realize where we are, and we all must have had the same exact thought. What is going to happen? The leader of the grey men then yells out an order in his language, and the others raise all of us to our feet, holding their machetes to the back of our necks. I look over to see Nadja crying. She looks terrified. She's just staring ahead at the fly-infested fence, assuming we all did. A handful of the grey men in front of us are now opening up a loose part of the fence, like two gate doors. On the other side, through the gap in the fence, all I can see is darkness. The leader again gives out an order, and the next thing I know, most of the commune members are being shoved, forced forward into the gap of the fence to the other side. I can hear Beth, Chantel, and Nadja crying. Moses, through the gag in his mouth, he pleads to them, please, please stop, as I'm watching what I think is a kidnapping, or worse, murder happen right in front of me. I realize that the only ones not being shoved through to the other side were me and Angela. Ty is the last to be moved through, but then the leader tells the others to stop. He stares at Ty for a good while, before ordering his men not to push him through. Instead, to move him back next to the two of us. Stood side by side, and with our hands tied behind us, all of the three of us can do is watch on as the rest of the commune vanish over the other side of the fence. One by one, the last thing I see is Nadja looking back at me, begging me to help her. But there's nothing I can do. I can't save her. She was the only reason I was here, and I was powerless to do anything. and that's when the darkness on the other side just seems to swallow them. I try searching through the trees and darkness to find Nadja, but I don't see her. I don't see any of them. I can't even hear them. It was as though they weren't there anymore, like they were somewhere else. The leader then comes back in front of me. He stares up to me, and I realize he's holding a knife. I look to Angela and Ty as though I'm asking them to help me, but they were just as helpless as I was. I can feel the leader of the grey men staring through me, as though through my soul, and then I see he lifts his knife high as my throat. Thinking this is going to be my end, I cry uncontrollably, just begging him not to kill me. The leader looks confused as I try and muffle out the words, and just as I think my throat is going to be slashed, he cuts loose the gag tied around my mouth, drawing blood. I look down to him, confused, before I'm turned around and he cuts my hands free from my back. I now see the other grey men are doing the same for Ty and Angela, to our confusion. I stare back down to the leader and he looks at me. And, not knowing if we were safe now or if the worst was still yet to come, I put my hands together as though I'm about to pray and start begging him before he yells, "Shut up! Shut up!" at me, this time raising the knife to my throat. He looks at me with wide eyes as though he's asking me, "Are you going to be quiet?" I nod yes, and there's a long pause all around, and the leader says in plain English, "You go back. Your friend's gone now. They're dead. You no return here. Go." He then shoves me backwards, and the other men do the same to Ty and Angela, in the opposite direction of the fence. The three of us now make our way away from the men, still yelling at us to leave, where again we hear the familiar words of Asili, Asili. But most of all, we were making our way away from the fence, and whatever danger or evil that we didn't know was lurking on the other side where the others now were. If you were wondering why the three of us were spared from going in there, we only managed to come up with one theory. Me and Angela were white, and so if we were going to go missing, there would be more chance of people coming to look for us. I know that's not good to say, but it's probably true. As for Ty, he was mixed race, and so maybe they thought one white parent was enough for caution. It's a terrible thing. The three of us went back to our empty commune to collect our things and get the hell out of this place we should never have come to. Angela said the plan was to make our way back to the river, flag down a boat, and get a ride back down to Kinshasa. Ty didn't agree with this plan. He said as long as his friends were still here, he wasn't going anywhere. Angela said that was stupid, and the only way we could help them was to contact the authorities as soon as possible. To Ty's and my own surprise, I agreed with him. I said the only reason I came here was to make sure Nadja didn't get into trouble, and if I left her in there with God knows what, this entire trip would have been for nothing. I suggested that our next plan of action was to go find a way through to the other side of the fence and look for the others. It was obvious by now that me and Ty really didn't like each other, which at the time seemed to be for no good reason, but for the first time, he looked at me with respect. We both made it perfectly clear to Angela that we were staying to look for the others. Angela said we were both dumb fucks and we were going to get ourselves killed. I couldn't help but agree with her. Staying in this jungle any longer than we needed to was basically a death wish for us. Like when you decided to stay in a house once you knew it was haunted. But I couldn't help myself. I had to go to the other side. Not because I felt responsible for Nadja, that I had an obligation to go and save her, but because I had to know what was there, what was in there, hiding amongst the darkness of the jungle. I was afraid, beyond terrified actually, but something in there was calling me, and for some reason I just had to find out what it was. Not knowing what mystery lurked behind the fence was making me want to rip off my own face, peel by peel. Angela went silent for a while. You could clearly tell she wanted to leave us here and save her own skin, but by leaving us here, she knew she would be leaving us to die. Neither me or Ty knew anything about the jungle, let alone how to look for people missing in it. Angela groaned and said, screw it. She was going in with us, and so we planned on how we were going to get to the other side without detection. We eventually realized we just had to risk it. We had to find a part of the fence, hack our way through, and then just enter it. And that's what we did. Angela, with a machete she bought from Mbandaka, hacked her way through 2 different parts, creating a loose gate of sorts. When she was done, she gave the go-ahead for me and Ty to tug loose the pieces of the fence away with a long piece of rope. We now had our entranceway. All 3 of us stared into the dark space between the fence, which might as well have been the entrance to hell. Each of us took a deep breath, and before we dare to go in, Angela turns to say to us, "Remember, you guys asked for this." None of us really wanted to go inside there, not really. I think we knew we probably wouldn't get out alive. I had my secret reason, and Ty had his. We each grabbed each other by the hand, as though we thought we might easily get lost from each other, and with a final anxious breath, Angela led the way through. Through the gap in the fence, through the first leaves, branches, and bush, through to the other side, and finally into the darkness, like someone's eyes when they fall asleep, not knowing when or if they'll wake up. This is where I have to stop. I can't go on any further. I thought I could when I started this, but no. This is all I can say. For now, anyway. What really happened to us in there, I don't know if I can even put it into words. All I can say is that what happened to us already, it was nothing compared to what we would eventually go through. What we found. Even if I told you what happens next, you wouldn't believe me. But you would also wish I never had. There's still a part of me now that thinks it might not have even been real. For the sake of my soul, for the things I was made to do in there, I really hope this is just one big nightmare. Even if the nightmare never ends, just please don't let it be real. In case I never finish this story, in case I'm not alive to tell it, I'll leave you with this. I googled the word Asili a year ago, trying to find what it means. It's a Swahili word. It means the beginning.